Welcome to the Real Estate Debate.
Oh, right, guy.
And today we're debating the hottest topics in real estate.
But I'm not going to stop yelling because then that'll mean I lost the fight.
And now, the host of the Real Estate Debate, Mr. Credit, on ESPN Radio 1700.
Let the games begin. Hey-o.
All right, it is that time. Your lunch hour. Mr. Credit here. Welcome to the Real Estate Debate every Friday right here on ESPN 1700, where we guarantee to make you smarter than everyone else. Of course, the Real Estate Debate is where we debate the hottest topics in San Diego real estate today. We have very much a veteran to this format in studio. Elizabeth Story is here. It is your third appearance on the Real Estate Debate. You do have a title under your name. Looking for number 2 today. You could be the first
Yes.
two-time winner of the Real Estate Debate. Welcome, Elizabeth.
Yes, thank you. I've got my purple dress and my curly hair, and I'm gunning for a win, so these boys better watch out.
She is in it to win it today.
Yeah.
Elizabeth Story from StoryRealtors.com. We also have a first-time guest on the show today. David Rudd is here from Kindred Real Estate and KindredRE.com. David, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me.
Great to have you, my friend. Looking forward to having you on the debate today and getting your opinions on some of these very hot real estate topics we've got. We've also got Brett Dickinson here from Pacific Sotheby's International Realty in La Jolla. Brett, welcome back to the program.
Thank you. It's great to be here, and I'm up for the battle.
He's up for it. All right. Well, we got a lot of hot topics today, so let's go ahead and jump right in. We like to take the temperature of the market every week. I think it's a good thing for us to be able to see what's happening from week to week in the real estate market. It's amazing how quickly some of these trends are changing these days. Today, we're going to switch it up just a little bit. So first of all, we declare a winner at the end of every show. I'll be keeping score throughout the show. For all valid points, we get a point. But we also have a $50 gift certificate for our winner today to go along with the little trophy. And that's to Amici's East Coast Pizzeria. So $50 pizza, that's also on the line today as well. Typically, when we take the temperature of the market, we ask you, is it a buyer's market, seller's market, a balanced market, and tell us why. Today, I would like for you to describe the market in one word. One word to describe the market right now, and then we will go around and we will make comments based on that. So, Elizabeth, I'm going to start with you.
Okay.
Describe the real estate market in San Diego right now, one word.
Can I use a hyphenated word?
That's-
Micro market.
Micro, that would
Yes.
work. So, and by that, I'm assuming you're implying that it's varying wildly in the different micro markets.
That's exactly correct.
Okay. And so give me an example of something like that.
So people say, are we in a buyer's market? Are we in a seller's market? And I want to start getting really technical in that question because there are so many micro markets around San Diego. It's not only a question of geography, but it's also a question of criteria. So if you're looking for a one-bedroom in 92101, you might have seen an influx of listings. Whereas if you're looking for a detached guest house in 92008, there are literally 2 houses on the market. So what you're looking for and where you're looking for it and how much you want to pay for it tells you whether it's a buyer's market, a seller's market, or a comfortable, balanced market.
So we might need to redefine this whole concept from not just being about the localities
Right.
or the locations, but also the criteria. So like there
Right.
might be a 2-bedroom market in downtown. By the way, there is.
There is.
There's a 2-bedroom
Absolutely.
market, there's a 1-bedroom market, there's a studio market,
Yeah.
and there's a very small 3-bedroom market.
Very small. Exactly.
That is an awesome point. In fact, I'm going to give you 2 points for that one.
Woohoo.
That's kind of reshaping the way that we think about and look at the different markets that we're in. So
Right.
when someone is looking to buy a house in a particular area, now you really have to consider that. Hey, what does the 3-bedroom market look like? Or what's the
Exactly.
4-bedroom
I
market
think you got to
look
be
like?
careful, though, with your bedroom square footage. I think also people look at their budgets and how much money they can borrow. So I think that not only is it broken down by, let's say, micro markets, but also, 3 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, 1 bedrooms. But most of our buyers come to us and say, oh, I have this much to invest, and this is what it's going to cost me per month. So I think that we want to look at both things.
Sure. Yeah, no, there definitely needs to be an overlay there. No question. So, Brett, I'll come to you next.
Oh, excuse me.
No, hey. No, that's fine. That's actually the direction I was headed. One word. Describe the market, the San Diego real estate market right now. One word.
Active.
Really?
Yeah, I think it's active because just looking at the numbers, we have active buyers, active sellers. I think that people are feeling comfortable with the buying and selling process. I think that the fact that we have such a huge discrepancy across the county, so we have some markets where it's a buyer's market, some markets where it's a seller's market, meaning that people are active. People are back active in the real estate business. I mean, they're in La Jolla, there are 77 properties pending. Rancho Santa Fe, there's 17 pending. There's 216 active properties on the market.
And so is
I
that
think
a lot?
people are out. Yeah, that's quite a bit. I mean, La Jolla in a great year does about 800 deals. That's a phenomenal year. A bad year, let's say 2006, 2007, they do 450 to 500. And 77 properties in escrow at any one time. That's a large percentage. That's 10% of the year.
Okay, and that's La Jolla?
That's just La Jolla.
Well,
so, you know,
that's
I
typically
just
a higher
think,
end market.
yeah,
too.
I just think active. I think that people are out there.
Okay.
And they're considering options. They're going, well, you know, I bought my property 4 or 5 years ago. I maybe want to move up in terms of I want to get a bigger place or things like that. And they're all thinking and considering. I find that people are talking about real estate all the time now.
Yeah,
So
I
I'd
would
say
agree with
it's
that.
active. I think it's on everyone's mind, and people are into it.
Yeah, they're taking action too. There's no
Yeah.
question about that. David Rudd, what do you think? Can you describe the San Diego real estate market in one word right now?
And this is a boring one maybe for everybody, but it's balanced.
Really?
Yes. And I think that to your point on a micro market as well as active, I think perception rules everything. And I think that our sellers are beginning to get a little bit skittish. We're seeing that the inventory is up. We've got about a 3-month supply, which economists would say overall is in technical balance. But when we're dealing with the coastal cities, when we're dealing in the luxury market, especially between the 1 million to 1.25, that just picked up within the last 30 days. But for the rest of the market that we're dealing with, I am seeing that there is that potential panic. We're no longer, comparatively, we're down 8% from pending sales from last summer. What that creates is our increase in listings that are coming on. We're no longer getting the 14, 15, 25 offers on properties. We're seeing more that's getting maybe 2 or 3, and that's somewhere between the $500,000, $750,000 market. So the micro market, I think it's definitely active, but overall perception on a countywide perspective, media and news, I think there's a little bit of panic out there.
A little bit of panic, which is bringing us to a balanced state because we were in a euphoric state. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yes, I refer to what we were going to happen, especially with all the buyers I represented last year as well as sellers. It's enjoy the heartbeat. Right now, I look at the market, especially when we come into balance, where we're spiking and then we're going to spike down. If people take overall the consideration of what's going on in the real estate market, it's the best place to invest. It's the best place to have your home on the market right now. But the expectation of the 15-day sale or the 30-day sale, those days are gone unless you are extraordinarily aggressively priced, and also getting a view property out of it. That seems to be a very hot commodity, and our coastal cities are continuing to see the benefit to the micro market.
So it could feel like a little bit of pain, a lot of price reductions, it seems like. Some homes kind of lagging on the market.
25% reductions that are going on. 25% of all listings have gone through a price reduction. Luxury market is very scared. Our cash buyers are gone. But if you want to spend $3, $4, $15 million, if you have the cash, if you have the financing availability, I am in a buy on that.
Really?
They are extraordinarily valued. When you're getting a property that you can't build for, they're selling for $3.5 million, and you can't build the property again without $10 million, you're definitely getting a value not only in the short term because you're enjoying it, but definitely in the long term as the market turns back.
Are you talking about LT's house, by the way?
Well, besides that, I have a beautiful.
Is this for sale for $3.5 million?
Yeah, in Poway.
I heard he's upside down.
Exactly.
I didn't know he was upside down like that.
But I have a beautiful property coming on just near his house, up in the Heritage, and quite frankly, the house is commercially built. We're 10,300 square feet, value priced at 7.9. But there's no way that house could be built in today's market, and with the cost of construction, with the cost of even vacant land, and you're getting it at value. And I think if you have it, what I've seen with my investor market, they are liquidating from the short sale market that was going on, because now they're at least coming to a break even, and they are moving back into the luxury market, keeping them as rentals, surprisingly.
Really?
Yes.
Wow. Luxury rentals.
Exactly. It's a very surprising.
I'm surprised by that, but that's usually the sign, that you're at the bottom of a market when investors are buying to turn around and rent stuff, or to buy and hold, if you will, which is kind of what that strategy is. Brett, do you have anything to say about that from the luxury side of things?
Well, on that point, there's actually a very big meeting that's going on in La Jolla, and they're trying to determine whether or not they're going to allow short-term rentals, and they're going to allow the vacation rentals because the city is upset because there's so many, and it's causing a little havoc. I mean, a lot of CC&Rs and things, and HOAs limit that you can't have transient rentals in certain areas, and the city council is going to give they're going to give a synopsis of what their conclusions are and what they're going to do. I think it's going to be tough for them to limit it, but by the same token, I think that there are a lot of people that bought several years ago, and if they could get the properties at the lower prices, then their rents actually make sense. If you buy now, the rents don't pencil, especially in coastal areas. But the vacation rentals actually make a lot more sense because you can get so much per week or per month. So we are seeing a ton of them in La Jolla and in the coastal areas, but it's more people that bought previously as opposed to who are buying now because prices are elevated.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make sense.
I wondered if they'd be grandfathered in or not with regard to that, because it sure would seem like that would be a wrong thing to do to someone who bought a property with a specific purpose in mind, and then a rule comes in and crushes the value of that property because that purpose can no longer be used for them or for the next person that they might be selling it to. So
I think they're opening themselves up, depending on their conclusions, for some serious lawsuits. I think there are quite a few people that have a lot of rental properties there, and if there's not one or two individuals that would sue, there would be a group.
Yeah,
I'm sure that we get together and do that.
It's not uncommon to see those limitations in condos, but that's usually when they're already written into the CC&Rs and things like that, so that people knew that most of the time if they did their due diligence going in, as opposed to changing it after the fact, after somebody's already made an acquisition. So anybody who is looking to buy a condo for the purpose of turning it into a vacation rental needs to make sure that they have thoroughly visited the CC&Rs and know whether or not short-term rentals are prohibited.
Yeah, very, very good point. Elizabeth Story there from StoryRealtors.com. We've got a great show kicking off today. We're going to come back with our first debate topic. Pocket listings seem to be going more and more in that direction these days. Does it make sense, and does it serve the seller's best interest? When we come back, we'll make you smarter than everyone else. Stick around.
You're listening to The Real Estate Debate with Mr. Credit on ESPN 1700. To contact Mr. Credit or any guest on today's show, go to mrcredit.org.
All right, welcome back. Happy Friday. You're listening to The Real Estate Debate. Mr. Credit here. We're debating the hottest topics in San Diego real estate. Our three guests today: Elizabeth Story from StoryRealtors.com. Brett Dickinson is here from Pacific Sotheby's International Realty in La Jolla, and David Rudd is here from Kindred Real Estate and KindredRE.com. So first debate topic. We're going to jump, and Elizabeth, I'm going to come to you first here.
All right.
So pocket listings. I think most consumers don't really know what these are, but we seem to be going more and more in this direction. And these are listings that where someone is selling their house, the agent that's representing them is essentially not blasting it out, not letting people know, maybe at all, but maybe not right away. They're kind of keeping it close to the vest and shopping it on their own in different ways. In fact, many of the bigger firms will kind of pre-list their homes with the agents in their network or at their brokerage before sending it to the MLS. The questions that we're trying to debate today is, does this activity, which seems to be more and more prevalent, serve the seller's best interest?
So, in my opinion, the only time that a pocket listing serves the seller's best interest is if they are fully informed of the ramifications and have elected to this for some specific reason. And I also want to back up a little bit and talk about the difference between a pre-listing and a pocket listing, because they are different things. I love pre-listing because it creates a buzz, it creates excitement, it creates activity, it allows people to get time together to prepare an offer.
What is a pre-listing?
Pre-listing means you might be networking around your brokerage or sending out emails or networking around your database to agents before it's officially on the MLS. As long as you don't accept an offer before it goes on the MLS, then that's just pre-listing.
Okay, so that doesn't
Right.
In other words, that doesn't harm the client in any way because everyone's still going to get to see it before you take it. Okay.
Exactly. So that's a pre-listing. A pocket listing is when you're going to accept an offer before you put it on the MLS, or maybe you don't have any intention of putting it on the MLS at all until after it closes. So that's the difference in those things. So there's a reason why some people like to do pocket listings. It might be because they're in a luxury market and they don't want a bunch of looky-loos and they don't want public photos of the interior of their home, or for some sort of privacy reason such as that. As long as they're fully informed of the ramifications of not putting it on the MLS, and their agent can get them an offer that's acceptable to them or at actual market value, then there's no harm done. But definitely pocket listings, they're not for everyone. There's a reason why the MLS was created. And I kind of like to put it back like this. You're in the market for a property right now. Mm-hmm. How many properties did you look at before you found the right one?
Well, still counting.
A lot, right?
Yeah.
A lot of properties, and probably listed by a lot of different people. Mm-hmm. So I sort of think pocket listings are kind of like finding a needle in a haystack. Unless you've already got the needle in mind, the odds of you having the exact right seller and the exact right buyer for every property are probably extremely slim. So just keeping that in mind, that the reason the MLS was created was to get the largest exposure possible, to find the most buyers, to get the most offers, to get the best price.
Okay, and so your main point here is that it's okay as long as the seller is fully aware and knows what they're signing up for. Pocket listings are okay. David Rudd, I want to come to you next here with this whole pocket listing discussion. I mean, do you feel that, seeing this more and more often, that is it a good thing for the marketplace, or does it really serve the seller's best interest?
I don't believe it serves the seller's best interest. I think that it is great from a networking perspective. I like the pre-listing. I do that myself. However, there's nothing more disturbing to me when I see an MLS closed property and says sold before entered into the MLS. I think the best interest of the client has not been taken into consideration. Free market's free market. And if I would have taken some properties that I know would have been eaten up at fair market value, putting it on the fair market, they actually sold significantly above what an appraised value would be, or what would have been considered marketing properties, because we found a unique buyer that was willing to, what from a market standard would be, overpay for the property, which in this instance was considerable. It was $200,000 or 10% of the listing price.
Wow.
So that type of issue, I believe in free market. Now on to the point of, I don't feel that you can appropriately disclose to a client how you're going to be, it's a benefit to them to not have it on the open market. And there may be some quote unquote special circumstances because they don't want the fine art done. I think that has to do with definite security issues. Mm-hmm. I had a client property that was purchased and actually the art was stolen right before we closed on the property. And those types of security risks do come into play. However, I think you can still market the property in a way while still ensuring your client's safety, without losing the integrity of what our role is to get them the highest and best possible value, and or they may have some other nuance there that we're serving, but I don't believe you can do that without at least entering it into the open market while considering who you've pre-networked with.
Okay, yeah, and I can certainly respect that. And that makes a lot of sense to me. If your job is to try to sell the property, to make it exposed to as many potential buyers as humanly possible, and the MLS is a great vehicle to do that. Brett, I'd love to hear what you think about this.
Well,
listing concept.
I disagree in several areas, and I don't necessarily agree with the term pre-list. So the way I see it is a pocket listing is that you are aware of a property that's for sale that nobody else really is aware of. So I look at it as either a signed pocket or an unsigned pocket. And I think pocket listings are, it's all about intent and strategy. So for example, several years ago in La Jolla, the market was kind of down, and I have a seller that wanted to put his property on the market. It was about an acre with, 7,000 or 8,000 square foot home, and he wanted me to sell it as a pocket. And I said, well, why don't you want to put it on the market? He said, because I think if I put it on the market, because the market's down, a lot of agents are going to come in. They're going to say, oh, it's not as worth as much as I'd like to get for it. But by not putting it on the open market, he created a little bit of a mystique and a demand, and we ended up selling the property off the market at what, if you look at the comps, which would have been greater with what the market was bearing. Sometimes when I have a client right now who's hesitant to put her property on the market because she's trying to get a higher price for it and create a mystique about it. It gets on the market, and if people look at it and they start to beat it up, then all of a sudden you now have a property that's been beaten up, because if it's a seller's market versus a buyer's market, it really changes the demand. So for me, what I think agents are doing and what the companies are doing is they have intent. So if I put my property within our system at Sotheby's and it's Crest, well, what our company is trying to get us to do is to do what we call double side the deal. Either I double it, in other words, I get the buyer and the seller, or an agent from within the company gets the buyer. And so we have an opportunity to sell that property within our company before we open it up to everybody else. That doesn't always benefit the seller. It benefits the company, but doesn't always benefit the seller. So my take is I agree with the open market, but I don't think it's wrong for a period of time or to think through a strategy to try to maximize value for your client depending on the demands of the market.
I think what you're trying to say here is that in a certain marketplace or a certain price points, if you put something on the MLS and it's there for X number of days, there kind of becomes an immediate disinterest potentially from people who might be seeing that. They go, oh, well, that's still on the market, so something's wrong with it. Whereas if you don't have it on the market, there's an implied potential value that, well, as soon as we put this thing on the market, people are going to jump all over it. So, it's almost like it's a tactic.
Absolutely. It's a strategy and a tactic. And I just think that the other thing that's happening is the reason Zillow and some of these other companies are trying to do that is they have an intent. They have a business model. They're trying to basically cut agents out over time. And so what happens is if you look at what's happening with rental properties, lots of rental properties, the majority of rental properties are occurring on Craigslist, or they occur directly. Well, if sellers can go to Zillow and put their property on the market, oh, this is a, pocket listing or off market, all of a sudden they're going to have a medium for getting their property out there and not necessarily using an agent. But Zillow and Redfin and these other companies are going to try to pick up that commission. It's all a tactic in many ways to try to figure out who's going to broker the deal and how we're going to maximize the income off the broker, which doesn't always benefit the seller. So
I think that's an important point to make, because that's really what the goal is, right?
Yeah.
That's where the fiduciary obligation is. So, that in itself might be kind of what points to, this is something that if we're going to this, if this is going to become a common theme, that in itself is a problem, I would say.
See, the United States has brokers involved in so many of the deals. Many of the other countries throughout the world don't. But one thing about the United States is it really protects the buyer with our title, escrow, and all of our due diligence. A lot of countries you buy, China, for example, or other countries you buy and you own in 3 days. So the agents, really, we're here to try to protect our clients is what it's really all about. Excuse me.
No, I think I would just want to make one clarification. I don't, and maybe it's a subject for a debate, but when I say the open or free market, I don't consider that the MLS. Times have changed. IDX is now pumping everything out everywhere. We have that all coming and fed through the MLS. Part of the reason why Redfin is getting most accurate data. Realtor.com, National Association of Realtors, we're getting stale data, partially due to the issues going on with short sales. I just believe you have to make it to the open market as long as it's appropriate and make sure that you're getting that exposure, and that doesn't necessarily mean the MLS. It was originally created for additional brokers or agents. So many times we hear the story about the MLS used to be a phone book and we'd meet every week at our broker caravan and that's how we did it. I totally get that. But this is the modern age where consumers, homeowners are wanting to be their own realtors. So the value proposition is much more than what was traditionally thought before, which is have a cup of coffee and put it on MLS and another agent's going to sell it. Because we do have homeowners willing to knock on a door and say, hey, I want to buy your house.
Yeah, times have changed, no question about it. I think this is going to continue to swirl as a topic. You're listening to the Real Estate Debate here on ESPN 1700. Save the station in your dial. Coming up, debate topic number 2. We've got a very close race today. A great crew of guests in the studio. Stick around. We will make you smarter than everyone else. It's guaranteed.
You're listening to the Real Estate Debate with Mr. Credit on ESPN 1700. To contact Mr. Credit or any guest on today's show, Go to mrcredit.org.
All right, welcome back. Fun Friday. It's the Real Estate Debate. Mr. Credit here, your host, guaranteeing to make you smarter than everyone else. We're debating the hottest topics in the San Diego real estate market. We've got Elizabeth Story in here from StoryRealtors.com, past winner of the Real Estate Debate, looking to make herself the first two-time winner today. Brett Dickinson is in here from Pacific Sotheby's, looking for his first crown on the Real Estate Debate. And David Rudd from Kindred Real Estate and KindredRE.com is in here. What's that?
I won last time.
Did you?
Yeah. I don't know why you're trying to undervalue my...
Price reduction.
I'm just joking. I won last time against
Did you really?
Dana. Yeah.
You won last time? Congratulations,
Yeah.
Brett.
I just didn't know why I wasn't...
This is what happens when you get old, I guess, right?
No, that's
bad.
okay.
If I don't write it
beauty
down.
before, bro, you know.
No. So Brett
It's
Dickinson
okay.
is also going for
Yeah, I'm
his
going for a
to be the
double.
first two-time winner. So either one of you could become the first two-time winner
Right.
today. That
You
makes
know,
it so
and
much
don't
more
men-
exciting.
What about the gift certificate?
There's also $50 in here to Amici's, which just opened a new location in Hillcrest on 5th Avenue. So we got that on the line today. So sorry about that, Brett.
No worries, we'll recover.
So David, you could even the scales today.
Yeah, I
if
need
you pull
one.
this off.
We're not
Otherwise, I
competitive.
think
That's
that
good.
there's going to be an inside deal going on here.
He's crying foul already.
This is a pocket listing, exactly.
We are only halfway through, my friend. So this first topic, I actually, this is our second topic, but it was supposed to be topic number one. I experienced this personally, so I have a pretty strong opinion myself that I'll be divulging at some point during this discussion. But it's I think it's an ethical question. It really is. Once again, we're talking about kind of what's best for the seller, but the question is, and what we'll be debating is it out of bounds, whether ethically or otherwise, for a listing agent to ask the buyer to pay negotiation fees on a short sale listing? So I'm going to go with David first on this round. David, do you believe that it is okay for a listing agent to ask a buyer to pay a short sale negotiation fee?
Yes. And the reason being is that there's a justification based on the additional work that will be involved. There is a point where we don't want to take advantage of a distressed situation, especially when it's coming into, they're obviously in a situation where needing to sell the home short, which has some potential financial ramifications, both short-term and long-term, not only from a future lending perspective, but also depending on how the debt structure is, they may be pursued personally. But there is a portion of the scope of a realtor's work. And I think that some of these items fall outside of the scope, and I think that there has to be a recuperation of cost for that. And, there are some portions of it where we're talking about some sort of negotiation fee, or there was one point in the market where the banks were giving it was a 3% deal, but or 6%, but 2% were going to each side, but then there was still like a percent being taken by the title company and escrow company, and it was broken down that way. I think that type of issue that was going on before that got flushed out very quickly and then still being charged to the seller because it's a quote-unquote write-off, I think that's a little bit different than taking on the role and responsibility of a negotiator as well as handling that portion of the short sale.
Okay, so you think it's okay for the listing agent to ask a buyer to pay the negotiation fee?
Yes. And as long as they're in agreement, it shouldn't be a secret.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it definitely can't be a secret. It's got to be disclosed up front. And then, of course, the buyer would have to agree to that in the contract and the offer that they're making. Brett, what do you think about this one? Do you think that it's okay for a listing agent to ask the buyer to pay a negotiation fee? Does that serve the seller?
I think in real estate, I think ethically, yes, it's okay. But I think in real estate, what we run into all the time is everything seems to be negotiable. So I think we're in a situation where commissions are what they are, but they're negotiable. Prices are what they are, but they're negotiable. Who pays what fees in a transaction? Who pays escrow? Who pays title? That always can be negotiated. So for me, I think that, if the seller asks the buyer to pay the negotiating fee, what it does is actually most of the times people that are doing short sales are actually hurting So it's really probably not going to come out of the seller's pocket. It's going to come out of the bank's pocket. And the bank made the loan. They're the ones that did the appraisals back whenever they did them. And it's actually going to save the bank money. Or it may save the listing agent money, because the bank may be saying to the listing agent, we'll give you 3% per side, but you got to pay for the negotiator. What the smart listing agents do is they go to the bank and they say the negotiating fee is 1%. They ask for 7%. Or you see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So it really depends on how you frame your negotiation. But ethically speaking, I think it's okay for the buyer to pay it, because he actually is the one generally in a short sale that's going to get the best deal, because he's going to end up purchasing a property below market. And it's actually in his best interest for the deal to come together. The seller is going to lose his home, and the credit's going to be hurt. And then the bank's going to get punished with the loss of the value and the money.
I see. Okay, that makes sense. So the person who has the chance to win the most would be left with this fee.
Yeah,
Potentially.
so he's paying for the
opportunity.
The opportunity, exactly.
Okay, no, I totally understand that. Elizabeth?
Well, that's exactly what I was going to say. So I wanted to put a different perspective, but that's what I was going to say is if you're buying a property for under market value, inclusive of this fee, then you're still walking away ahead, and there's no damage to you to having to pay the fee. And it may even also be part of your deductible costs. I'm not sure because I'm not a CPA, but check on that. So in order to pay that fee, to have someone negotiate it professionally for you, somebody who's invested in making sure that it gets closed and making sure that it gets closed quickly, then it's to your benefit to pay it. And again, going back to, short sales are very complicated. I have one right now that has a Board of Equalization tax lien. I don't know if you've ever dealt with the Board of Equalization, but it's not
Unfortunately.
fun. Yeah. I had to escalate it all the way to a manager, and he told me verbatim that he'd rather see it foreclosed than forgive 1 penny of that lien. So when you're dealing with situations where there's multiple liens, multiple lien holders, on that same file, we're also short $3,000 on the second. So now you've got multiple liens, we're short on the second, I got a negotiator to hire, and I've been working the deal for over a year, and I'm a professional who deserves to get paid for my time and my energy, and my compensation shouldn't always be the first one to be attacked. So I think it goes back to, if you're getting a property under market value inclusive of this fee and it helps you get the deal closed, then absolutely it's okay. And the question of ethics only comes into place if it's a secret. If it's not a secret and everybody, including the bank, knows you're doing it, then you've fulfilled your fiduciary obligations.
Okay. And so that's where the line kind of gets drawn. So I'm going to kind of disagree with all three of you. And the reason is because I don't see how this serves the seller. The only thing I see, if you ask a buyer to pay a fee like this up front, all I can see that doing is discouraging buyers. Discouraging buyers from wanting to put an offer in on a property.
Well, it's a request, not an obligation.
Yeah.
So that's where I disagree with you to some extent. So it doesn't mean the buyer has to pay it, but they're asking them to pay it.
Right. But how does that serve the seller, though?
It saves him money. Or it saves not him money because he's in a short sale, but it actually saves the bank money is what it's going to do ultimately.
I don't think it's going to save the bank money. I mean, maybe it could save the bank money, but still I don't see how that serves the seller. You see where I'm having trouble here with this? How does that serve the client of that particular agent who's listing this property? How does it serve them?
Well, I would go to say this far. So when you sit with a seller and they're going through a short sale, it's very emotional for them. And so what happens to them is they're having to deal with this whole process, and in a way it takes so much of that responsibility kind of off their plate. They're already going to have to deal with so many other things that are going to be the outcome of that short sale. So in a way what it does is it puts a lot more emphasis for the buyer to get the deal done, and he's going to have to pay for his good price.
I'll say that if a buyer's willing to pay that 1% fee, then they're committed to seeing it close. Because there's also wishy-washy buyers, and there's nothing worse than having a wishy-washy buyer on a short sale. It takes a lot of time, a lot of paperwork, and a lot of energy, and a lot of hope and expectation to get that deal approved. And you need invested buyers who are committed to seeing it close just as much as the seller and just as much as the agent. And if a 1% fee is going to scare you away, then you probably have no business buying a short sale to begin with, because there's probably a lot more like deferred maintenance, there could be late HOA dues, there could be other liens. So if a 1% fee inclusive and you're still getting it under market value, scares you away, then you probably shouldn't be buying a short sale to begin with.
Well, they could easily just ask for a larger deposit, or you know what I mean. It doesn't have to be a fee.
No, you can't take a short sale negotiator fee out of the deposit.
Well, I'm not saying you can take the fee out of the deposit. I'm just saying if you're looking for a committed buyer, there are
Yeah.
other ways to do it besides making them pay a fee.
That goes.
Well, it's not the only way. It's a way.
Yeah,
It is a way, and I think to that, and I don't know that enough people did use it in the marketplace at the time, but there is. Anybody that would be in that situation, if I was a listing agent, I'd make a portion of that deposit go hard, because what happens is they're putting on 20 different offers out there, because we are getting the deal finder out there, and deal finders will jump onto the next deal. So whether it's a couple $1,000s, definitely put them on the line for that so they can't run off, because with the short sale addendum, they are, until acceptance from the bank, they're able to just stop at any time. And there's a property actually right now with clients that are interested in purchasing that's actually up in Valley Center. Well, she's been working, the listing agent's been doing this for like 4 months. They just got back the final approval from the bank, and poof, their buyer's gone.
Exactly.
And there has to be some sort of commitment. The second part about it is the buyer, aside from the fee. When we're dealing with sellers, the idea of putting in additional expense to sell this house, and it alleviates their stress, as long as the buyer and the buyer's agent is welcome to give up their portion of the commission
Right.
and serve their buyer if they don't want to go with the fee. In addition to that, even after we have our cooperating brokers percentage, that is always still negotiable. People don't realize you can call up the other agent and say, this is a portion that's here. This is what's being offered, but I would like another portion at competitive properties.
Very good.
And we all forget
advice.
about that.
Very good advice. And, I'll tell you that part of the reason could potentially be, and I don't know, I don't have any stats on this, but if we're talking about short sales and buyers falling out, part of the reason could potentially be that person who was excited to buy this property, who said, yeah, I'll pay your negotiation fee. Then when it comes down to brass tacks, you get all the way to the end of this thing and they're like, wait a minute, how much money do I have to pay again? And then they roll out. That could be part of the problem that this supposed solution is trying to fix. So I would highly encourage anyone who's listening to short sale not to ask for something like this. Figure out another way. Whether you ask for it from the bank or split it between the agents involved in the transaction, I would highly recommend you do it another way, because you will scare off buyers. I've watched it happen. It's happened to me. All right, we've got to take a break, Brett. Sorry I couldn't get back to you on that. But when we come back, we have probably the hottest topic ever in real estate to debate, and we're going to have a short segment to do it. It's going to be interesting. We'll make you smarter than everyone else. Stick around.
You're listening to The Real Estate Debate with Mr. Credit on ESPN 1700. To contact Mr. Credit or any guest on today's show, go to mrcredit.org.
All right, welcome back. A very heated real estate debate going on today. It's a very close race right now. Still anybody's game. The real estate debate every Friday right here on ESPN 1700 at noon, where we guarantee to make you smarter than everyone else. Today we have Elizabeth Story in here from StoryRealtors.com. Brett Dickinson is here from Pacific Sotheby's International Realty in La Jolla. And David Rudd from Kindred Real Estate and KindredRE.com are in the studio as well. So let's get to the final debate topic for the day today, dual agency. We touched on this earlier. With kind of the purpose behind pocket listings in a lot of cases seems to be for the idea of maybe getting both sides of a transaction. So for those who don't know, when a piece of real estate is sold, there's typically a listing agent and a buying agent. So there's two real estate agents that are involved in the transaction. Each one gets a commission. Typically that total commission is somewhere between 5 and 7%. Usually 6% is like a standard. And how that gets divvied up is really dependent upon the listing agent. We have had a listing agent on the show before who offers $0 to buyer agents. So it gets pretty interesting out there how things get cut up sometimes. But the idea behind dual agency is that, should it be possible, should it be legal for a person to represent both sides of any transaction in which is supposed to be a negotiation? So, Brett, I'm going to start with you on this one. Dual agency in real estate. Should this be allowed?
Well, the first thing I like to say is that I think that having a listing agent and a buyer's agent is a great relationship because it's adversarial. So I believe in an adversarial relationship to some extent. cooperative but yet adversarial. So I think it's very often better to have a buyer and a listing agent. Should it be legal? I think yes, but I wouldn't necessarily always advise it. There are certain circumstances where one agent can do a better job in the middle and be less complicated. In commercial real estate, you see it all the time. So commercial real estate agents, they list properties and they don't even ever have a buyer's agent. They're actually always in the middle of the deal and they're facilitating the buyer and the seller. But I do believe that there's a conflict of interest there. And I think that, yes, it should be legal, but in life, especially in the United States, we're about giving people choice and not telling people what they can and cannot do. We're trying to create laws that protect people financially and this and that. But I think you want to give people the choice of whether they want to do that or not. Because, for example, there's a property I'm going after right now that's not on the market. I represent the buyer initially. I talked to the seller about it. I said, are you interested in selling your house? We presented them with an offer after we did a single party showing. And she went and got her agent. She's an older woman, 82, 83 years of age. And now she has her agent. Now we are working together. There's another property I went after. And what she did is we said, okay, here's the 5% commission. And that seller said, you know what? I don't need my own agent. I like you. I trust you. But let's cut the commission to, let's say, 3%. And that way we save 2% on the overall commission and you can handle the deal. So I think you want to, for us and for Americans, we want to have choice. But I think you want to be able to evaluate that through shows like this where you talk about it.
Yeah, flexibility within your options. Okay,
yes.
Totally understand that. Elizabeth Story, what do you think? Dual agency.
So here's something interesting. I've got some savvy buyers that I'm working with and that I've actually won over, one who I'm showing a property immediately after this show to, who they actually go and seek out the listing agent to try to write their offer for them because they believe it will actually increase their chances of getting the property. Now, sometimes people will seek out the listing agent to increase their chances, and sometimes they'll seek out the listing agent because they think they'll get a better price. So there's actually buyers in the marketplace who try to do that. But I do think that there are times when it's A-OK, kind of like the example that was already given, when you've sought out a specific property or maybe you're doing a reduction in commission so it still nets the seller a higher amount and everybody's happy with the transaction, happy with their representation. But it also, I think that it's important to remember as a buyer that you can have your own representation. You don't have to go through the listing agent. The reason that there's a code of ethics at the National Association of Realtors of California and the San Diego Association of Realtors, there's a code of ethics that we all are required to cooperate with each other. So everybody's who above board will do that and will allow representation from either side to get the property sold.
Fantastic stuff. I would love to let you elaborate, but I'm short on time. You did really, really well. Dave, I want to give David a chance here. Dual agency, it's a big topic.
Yeah, and you know what? I have done dual agency, but I am in complete support of banning it. And the reason for, I think we need to restore integrity to the real estate profession and being realtors. And I think it always drives into some sort of question. Anybody, and when I go through and am in dual agency, I explain it as I'm the blackjack dealer. I have all the cards, but I'm going to give you the best advice. I'm going to give you the best advice, and you're still going to be duking it out. However, I do see too much in the marketplace where something is potentially undersold and you become more of a mediator. And I think it's more of a, it's an increase to the value of a realtor and integrity back to our profession without ever somebody questioning something. However, we do run into the issue of dual agency based on the law of your head broker. So if there's a brokerage that has 290 agents, it technically still would be dual agency, even though we are separate agents within. So that portion gets a little bit, questionable, but it's banned in many states. I think we should follow suit. I think it just creates, where we have the code of ethics, quite frankly, there are many that are not following it.
Right.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's you rely a lot on that to take place. So I like what you're saying here. Maybe switch it up in a way that you could still allow two Pacific Sotheby's agents to sell properties, somewhat, represent each side, but not maybe one person that would make a lot of sense to me. Very, very good stuff from David Rudd today. And Kindred Real Estate, you have won yourself the real estate debate, my friend. Congratulations to you.
Wow.
Congratulations. Well done. Nice
You were
close.
set.
I
You
know,
were set up.
Hey, everyone did great today. The score was very, very close. David just edged one out. You've also won the $50 gift card to Amici's East Coast Pizzeria, so you can
All
have some
right.
pizza this weekend.
Thanks
my
so
friend.
much, Amici's.
Yes, really appreciate you being here. Elizabeth Story from Story Realtors, always great to have you. You did a fantastic job as well. And Brett Dickinson from Pacific Sotheby's, you guys rock. That was a great show. Have a fantastic weekend. We'll be back again on Monday at noon to make you smarter than everyone else. See you then.